Michigan Tech's a great rival. They've had a lot of success as of late. Always a good hockey team. You got one of the top lines in the league. I think Pietila, Mosley and Kukkonen probably coming into the season is number one line returning in the league. So they got some really good players. They played a tough schedule, but they got a sweep last weekend. They won some games in an interesting way. I mean, they had to come back. 6 attackers. Win games 3-on-3. Some gutty performances by Michigan Tech. So, but always great games. Again, we've established a great rivalry with Tech, and we play each other a lot. Not only 4 times during the regular season, but playoff games and things like that. So, always excited to play Tech. Well coached, hardworking. They play with a lot of pace. They got good structure. Special teams, again, they're always dialed in. So it's another weekend in the league.
Yeah, I want to ask you, all 7 of your freshmen have now gotten into game action. And just talk about the confidence that those younger guys have given you guys as coaches to earn that ice time.
Well, we always play our guys though. So I mean, every year, guys, if they got to play, but then they got to stay in the lineup, and there's always a lot of things. But it's good that they play. It's good that they get a little experience, and they're not so awestruck when they're in the games. And so, but we really like this freshman class. I think it's over the course of 4 years, it's going to be a really good class. They're gonna play a lot of hockey, and you can tell, like, these guys, they're hockey players. So some it's going to take a little longer than others, but overall, what we like what we see in practice, and we like what we've seen in games.
You talked about before the season how there's always going to be some wild cards with a new group coming in. Have any of these kids maybe surpassed some of your early expectations?
I don't think so. Right now, again, they're doing fine, but nobody's like separated themselves, and they're ready to be maybe a top 6 forward right now. That's for sure up front, and obviously, Eric's getting a lot of extended minutes right now. He's game ready from the start, so he's already got a lot of experience. He's eating up a lot of minutes for us. So, but up front, it's a little tougher with those guys. It's hard. It's hard. It's a tough level for forwards. There's just no easy ice. So, you're coming from junior hockey where you got a lot more time and space than you have now, and it just takes a while to get acclimated. And you got to have speed, you got to have strength. There's just a lot of factors, and you got to be in the right spot. So. They're all trying to figure that stuff out, but I think, like I said earlier, in due time, they're going to be just fine.
Can you talk about maybe the mindset of a younger player and how important it is for them to not go too high or go too low after a given weekend?
Well, the one thing about young players, and our staff was talking about it today, is that they always have good detail to their game. I mean, they want to please. They want to please the coaches. They want to play. They've got good detail to their game. Their habits are typically, again, you got to work on their habits, but once you've worked on their habits are pretty good. So, I mean, they do a lot of the right things right there. So it allows you to trust those guys because you see that. And sometimes as you get older and you get more comfortable, sometimes your detail goes a little bit. And that's the one, that's the one thing as a coach, you got to try to make sure, again, that you can't worry about how many years you played or how many minutes you played or how many goals you've had. There's still a certain way to, how to play this game.
And last one for me, obviously the stuff with the David Adam Johnson is pretty tragic, but a lot of programs in and out of college hockey have made available some neck protection. Is that something that you guys have talked about or maybe discussed as a team that's available?
We haven't talked about that as a team. This will be an NCAA thing, a league thing. So that will there's no question that there's going to be a lot of conversation on that in the near future. Right now, they can't keep up. So you can't mandate anything right now. You can't buy anything. So retail wise and everything else, it's so difficult right now. That's why you haven't seen as much mandated rules regarding that. But I think you will next year. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you saw last week that you focus on to get the W's?
Oh, I don't know. We got to get off to a better start. I mean, you couldn't have asked for 2 worse starts last weekend. I mean, 3-0. I mean, I can't believe we came back on Friday night, but we exerted a lot of energy coming back. And then Saturday it was just like, I can't believe we're repeating this, but we did. And then we just chased the game. We just chased the game on Saturday night. It was once they had the 3-1 lead, it wasn't happening. You could sense it. It wasn't happening.
Coach, we've seen the team do that a couple times this year when they played from behind and they've come back to force overtime. What does that say about the team?
Well, I think it says a lot of good things about the team, but you don't want this to be a pattern either. So, I mean, it's nice to know that when you're down, you can come back, but you don't want to be playing that card too much.
You said something after the game you scored your first goal where you said you guys know your role, and just talk a little bit more about that, and how do you find out that role? Is that something that you guys talk about with coaches or internally?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you definitely talk about it with coach, but I think, when you get to this level, you've played a lot of hockey already. You kind of know the ins and outs. You know what makes a successful bottom six and what doesn't. And I think it's more of like a feel around the team when you realize like, all right, some things are starting to slip. We got to like bring this back up, and you realize that you might not get the minutes right away that some of the other guys are. So you got to really take advantage of those minutes that you do get.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions too. Is just talk about that fighting and having to earn that spot in the lineup and how that dynamic works within the team.
Yeah, I think it's just that's hockey, right? That's something I've had to do since I started playing this game. This is what kind of what the game's all about. It's at the end of the day, though, like when you step on the ice, it's the same game you've been playing, but you really gotta focus, you gotta be sharp. It's what separates a lot of people too at this level is you have to you gotta be effective in your time. There's no room. There's not 82 games like an NHL year. There's 30 something. So when those games matter and those games are that big, you really have to you got to value your minutes and you got to take advantage of them.
But 4 years of juniors,
yeah,
and that's a long time before you get here. Just talk about the biggest adjustment you had to make personally to translate that to the college.
Yeah, I think last year I got hurt, so it was almost a little bit of in the summer just kind of catching back up with just game speed and stuff like that. But I think the transition's been decent. I think the speed's pretty similar. I think it's more of guys are a bit stronger here, especially as a center on face-offs and stuff like that. I think that's something that I've had to work on since I got here. But also there's no like lower end players. Like the fourth lines are really good. First lines are really good. So you're really not going to get anybody's like bad line or whatever. So you kind of, I think the adjustment's just making sure that you're really not taking any shifts off, just being more consistent, I think.
Especially in the fourth line too, where it could be a different group of three guys every single night. Talk about how you need to be a versatile player to be able to play with different combinations. Yeah,
and that is a challenge sometimes too, right? When you play a couple games with one guy and then all of a sudden switches on you. So I think it comes back to being a smart hockey player. I think you got to realize who your teammates are, who you're playing with. But you also have to make sure you're being consistent in your game. You can't be trying to change too much for other people. You got to make sure they know what they're getting out of you every night. So then you got to be there when, especially as a center, you got to be there to support your wingers. You got to be there to support the defenseman down low. You got a lot of responsibility, and that's something that coaches have given me early on is being a center, and it's something I don't take lightly.
How important is it for a fourth line to start on
I
offense?
think it's important for every line, but especially the fourth line. I think for us, it's I think a big part of how we've had success lately is playing in their end, and I think that starts with the draw. That's the first battle of every game. It's the first battle of every period. Like you have the opportunity right at the face-off dot to gain possession. It's the first time you can go out and compete. So I think it's really important. It's something that in our exhibition game against Minnesota, I realized that some good face-off guys over there and got to get to work. And I think I've gotten a lot better though since the start of the year.
I just wanted to ask a little bit from last week to this week. What are some of the things that you guys are focusing on to get a win this weekend versus?
I think our special teams. I think that's the big one. I think our PK needs some work, and then especially our power play. So I think our power play will get better. It just takes some time. So we're switching some guys here and there around. So that will get better. I think we're usually known for our PK, so that will get better too. So I think we just got to stay consistent.
You guys have been playing from behind in a couple games this season and managed to get yourself out of that situation a couple times and push it to overtime. What does that say about the mentality of the team and just your drive to finish?
Yeah, I think we got a bunch of competitors on this team. I think a lot of guys love to play hockey. I think we'll compete until the very end or until the buzzer. So I think if we do that, and hopefully we can start off with the lead and then play with the lead throughout the whole game, so that'd be a lot better.